Okay, great. Um, but I mean, obviously, like, you can't just rely on these Zoom recordings because if I do anything on the board, you're not gonna be able to see it, you're not gonna be able to hear me. And I do that, which I am about to do right now. I am reaching in my bag for my purple whiteboard marker. And what we're going to be doing today is, on Tuesday, we learned how to build basic shapes and draw with lines and things like that. Okay, these are sort of built-in functions that make our lives a little easier. We really need to, though, in order to really master Illustrator, we've got to master the pen tool. Let me illustrate. So if I'm an illustrator here, this, come on, oh no. Oh, I just did a PC shortcut right now on my Mac. I've never done that before. That was really weird. Okay, all right. Okay, so if I did something like, I click on the rectangle tool here and I click and draw, or actually let's do a circle. So I'm going to hold down Option and Shift so I draw it from the center. So I've made a circle. Okay. We talked about the bounding box last time. This square, sort of rectangle frame that goes around the circle. Let's look at it a little bit differently. Okay, so far, to select things, we've been using this direct selection tool. So it's, if you hit V, you get the direct selection tool. But there are more precise selection tools. So underneath, let me make sure I'm in the right workspace. Remember how we talked about Essentials Classic? Okay, there we go. I just switched my workspace so that we're in Essentials Classic, and hopefully you are too, so that we're all looking at the same interface here. So there's a black arrow. There's this annoying pop-ups here. But then there's also a white arrow. And the white arrow has if you press and hold, it's got multiple options. And like I showed you last time, this little strip on the side lets you sort of tear that off into a little mini palette. Okay. The black is the direct selection. General, wait, what's it called? Oh, geez. General selection tool. The white is more of a direct selection tool. Okay, so I'm going to show you the difference. I'm going to choose the white arrow that has the little plus sign on it, and I'm going to click on this circle. Notice I'm not seeing the bounding box anymore. Instead, I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Okay. If I get even more specific, okay, this is the group selection tool. If I go over and choose the white arrow that doesn't have the plus on it, and click outside, and then I'm going to click on here, I get something totally different. Now I clicked on that point right there, that point at the top. Now, the other 4 points that made up that circle are empty, so they're not selected. So now I've only selected one point, one little point on that shape. And then these other things pop out, right? These other things show up. What are those? This is what we're gonna learn today. This is the essence of what it is to make what are called Bezier curves. Okay. Remember this word. You're gonna use it for the rest of your career. Bezier curves based on, I don't know, some mathematician named Bezier. I don't know. So what's going on here is that these points, okay, the line that we see that makes up the circle, we call it a path. It's called a path. Remember we talked last week about bitmap versus vector graphics. Like bitmap is just like a map of a whole bunch of pixels and what color they are. But vector is about a mathematical equation where you have a point here, a point here, a point here, and then some sort of equation that calculates the shape. This is Illustrator. We're dealing in vectors. So this is the basis of vector artwork. So there's two things going on here. The points that are on the path, we call them anchor points. Anchor points, okay? These lines that come out that don't seem to have anything to do with the shape, but they do. Those are handles. And so we call them handles, handle points, or I think there's another word for it. I can't remember. So what happens now is that you're going to think of this shape in terms of segments. So between each of these points is a line segment. Between these 2 points is a line segment. And what's controlling the curvature of that line segment are these handles. They're kind of like how the moon controls the tide, right? They just have a pull on it. And if you have this very specific direct selection tool active, I can actually take this and see how as I pull it, it's affecting the nature of the curvature of this shape here. So you can play around with that. So the shorter it is, the less power it has over controlling that curve. The longer it is, the more powerful it is. The way it works, I mean, you're not going to be quizzed on this or anything, but if you're interested in just like how mathematically it works, you've got an anchor point, a handle, and a handle, right? That's basically what's going on. That was terrible, but whatever. With each segment of this line. So see if I can remember correctly. Oh my God, this is taking me back. What's happening is the computer is kind of it's calculating a line between the 2 handles. It's calculating the middle. It's drawing the middle. It's drawing another line from the middle, and then it calculates the middle of those. and then it draws a line between those, and it calculates the middle of those, and it draws a line between those, and then it calculates here and here and here and here, and then it draws another line, and it just does that over and over again until, eventually, after so many calculations, a smooth curve is created. So that's a little bit, like I said, you're not gonna be quizzed on this. Most designers don't actually have any idea how this works. But that's the basics of how mathematics behind Bezier curves work. So as you can see, if I extended this handle out really far, it would pull that line up and make an entirely different curve to it. So in graphic design, in your career as graphic designers, you're going to be creating a lot of Bezier curves. Like when you're doing like a custom logo or an illustration or something like that. And, to be honest, there are good curves and there are bad curves, okay? Some are more pleasing than others. And there's kind of a rule of thumb to, choose, you don't want too many points in your shape, too many anchor points, that gets a little unwieldy. But you don't want to have too few so that you can't have more detail. So it takes practice. It's going to take, and we are going to practice a lot on this. So the rule of thumb is the 30% rule. Okay, take the length of a line segment, which would be like from this point to this point. Each handle should come out about 30% of the length of that line. This is the easiest way to ensure a pleasing curve, and something that's not like earwomp or, just wonky and it's just a rule of thumb. And I'm not saying that's applicable in every single situation, but the 30% rule is what I always try to keep in mind when I'm doing this. So let's see what happens. Let's try a few shapes now, because not every shape has a continuous, see how these handles, it's a perfect line and they all go together and one affects the other. That's not always going to be the case. I'm going to delete. Going to move this out of the way. Okay, so the pen tool is right here. I'm going to close the direct selection tool. The pen tool is right here, and if you click on it and hold, there are other options hidden underneath, and we can tear away this little palette right here. It's like I clicked and I didn't mean to. Delete. Okay, let's start with the regular pen tool. There are two types of anchor points that you can create. You can create a corner point, and you can create a smooth point or a curve point. So if I just simply click, I'm creating corner points. There's no handles. There's no curve to them. They're just hard anchor points. And watch what happens when I go back to the original point, as soon as I hover over it, this little circle appears. I don't know if you can see that. This little circle appears on the bottom of, that means I'm closing the shape. Okay, if I clicked out here, it would be an open shape, but if I click on the original opening anchor point, I'm closing the shape, and now no longer is my pen tool really active. I can hit V to go back to my direct selection tool, and I've created this polygon. And then I can, adjust it however I want. I'm gonna go back to my pen tool. As we saw on Tuesday, certain things happen when you hold down the shift key. So on Tuesday, you learned that you can make a perfect square if you hold down the shift key, perfect circle. With the pen tool, if I click and I hold down the shift key, it's going to restrain that line to a 45-degree radius. So I can make, and then actually with those handy little guides, I can create perfectly right angles by holding down the shift key. And then if I switch over to the direct selection tool, I've got a shape that I can manipulate. But what about curves, right? That's just click, 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 okay? We want to make a curve. So say we just want to make an arc. If I click and drag, notice how two handles come out. If I hold shift, they stay at a 45 or 90-degree orientation. Okay, I let go. Now, click and drag again, and I get handles. Like I said, this takes practice. Okay, you really do need to practice this. Click and drag again. I didn't map. If I really wanted to make a really good circle, I would turn on some sort of grid, but I didn't. So it's just kind of a wonky, looks like a bad egg. I don't know what that is. Go away. So I was clicking and dragging to create those handles. Let's say I just wanted to do not a complete shape, but just like a hump, okay? So I'm going to get my pen tool. I'm going to click once. I'm not dragging, I'm just clicking to create a point. It's not going to have any handles. Then I'm going to click and drag on top here. And then I'm going to come down, and I'm just going to click once there. And I'm going to hit V to get out of my pen tool. So I've created this sort of arc kind of thing. And if I wanted to manipulate it, I would go to my direct selection tool, and I hover over here. It tells me I'm on top of an anchor point. I can get in there and I can, mess around with the handles and stuff like that. Now these points they don't have handles because I didn't click and drag those. I just clicked. Okay. But let's say I changed my mind. I want a handle on that thing. I want it to be a smooth anchor point and not a corner anchor point. Well, there's this tool right here. Looks like a caret, like when you add text to a sentence or something. I can click this. And this allows me to do a few things. So I can hover over an anchor point and I can drag out and I can create handles, a smooth anchor point where there wasn't one before. And also an anchor point doesn't have to have two handles. Sometimes you only want it to have one handle, or you don't want those handles to be connected at all. You want them to be moving freely on their own. So I could take this tool, grab it, and look, I've broken it away. I've broken it away from its other handle. But I want to get rid of it altogether. I'll show you an example of where you would want to break this later. But I'm just going to drag it back into the anchor and let go. Now, I'm going to go back to my direct selection tool and click on this. And there's only one handle for this anchor point, which kind of makes more sense because it doesn't really have a connecting segment anywhere else. But a shortcut for that, is if you've got the pen tool, hold down the Option key and it turns into that bracket, that caret kind of key. And I could take this and drag it back in there and get rid of it. And that gets rid of it. So so let's all open a new file. Let's practice some shapes. Okay, we're just going to do a few simple sort of wavy shapes, just for practice. Grab the pen tool and make a few of these. Click once, click and drag for the top, click again, hit V. Oops. There's one. Okay. P. Hey, if you hit P, that's the shortcut for getting the pen tool. Do another one. Click and drag. Click V to get out of that tool. Okay. Make a few arcs. Make a line of arcs, V to get out of the tool. And then let's try making some waves. Okay. So in this case, we're going to click and drag. But in this case, we want our wave to be cresting to the right. So before we do our next point, we're going to hold down the Option key and break this handle so it goes in this direction. And then we click again, and then we hit V, and we have like a wave, like that. Did I go too fast? Yeah, let me do it again. Okay, let me do it again. Okay, so I'm clicking, then I'm going up and over. I'm clicking and dragging like I'm gonna make an arc. But before I go down and click down here, I want to break this handle. So I'm holding down Option or Alt. If you're on the PC, it's Alt. And I'm clicking this part of the handle here, and I'm bringing it over. Okay, we don't see any result yet because we haven't drawn the next line segment. But now when I draw the next line segment, it's going to have that effect to it. It's going to be curved to the side like a wave. I'll do it again. Click and drag. Hold down Option or Alt. Break that off. And then finish up the curve. Okay. Let's do one in reverse here. So let's do a click and drag. And this time we're going to grab the other side. So Option or Alt. Break that off. And then complete the curve. Okay, again, click, let me get the tool. Click and drag. I'm going for the left handle this time. Option or Alt. Click that to break that handle. And then complete it. Again. Click and drag. Option or Alt. Break. And then complete that. Another type of curve or shape you might want to practice is sort of instead of it a wave that goes to one side or wave that goes the other, but you might want like a half arc or something like that. In that case, we got the pen tool. We're going to do click and drag. No, I don't like that. I want, okay, click and drag. While this is still active, hold down Option or Alt. And if I take this, I drag it into the anchor point, it makes it go away completely. And then I can just draw a straight line down. And if you hold Shift, you'll get a perfectly straight line. And I can create something that looks like that. I mean, you can also edit it. I mean, I'm doing this on the fly. Like the moment I'm creating the shape, I'm altering the handles. I mean, you could create the shape and then go back later and alter the handles, you know. That would be fine. Like if I wanted the like mirror image of what I just created, I could do that. I'm going to hit V to get out of the pen tool. And then I could grab this little, what do they call it? What do they call this tool? I'm hovering over it. It's not telling me. And then I could go in here and I could, well, let me select that anchor point, and then I could take this handle and bring it into here and, you know, get sort of, you know, you can do it while you're creating the shape, or you can go back later and create it. So, uh, many different ways to do it, which is nice, you know, you have options, you've got options. So these are some good starting shapes for you to get going. So what I would like for you to do now, I have an exercise for you. If you go into Canvas and there's an Illustrator file called Pen Tool Practice, download that. I think I have it open already. It looks like this. Very wide, very wide. Basically, there are instructions for you to recreate the word vector. You're going to actually create the word vector using the pen tool. And there's very precise instructions, and there's a little legend right here that tells you, you know, orange is the first step of each path. And then these represent the next step and the click location and where the handles should be released. And the dotted line is, you know, what you're aiming for. So, you know, so for, you know, the first one, V, pretty simple. I'm going to grab the pen tool right on there. I'm going to click. And then before I click on number 2, I'm going to hold down Shift to make sure I get a perfectly horizontal line. And then I'm going to go down here and click on the next one. And I click on the next one. Next one. Dude, hold down Shift, click there. And then when I get back to the original one, I should see that circle in the lower right of the pen tool, and it tells me that I'm closing the path. I click it, and there I have created the letter V. So, you know, V and E should be pretty simple. Once you get to C and O, you're going to have to really pay attention to how far out you drag your anchors. And if you need to delete anchors. So go ahead and open that up and get started on that. We'll spend some class time now just practice. I mean, it just takes practice, you know. It's good Bezier curves versus bad Bezier curves, you know, kind of weeds out the, you know, experienced designers from the novice designers. So this is a very important skill to learn. So I'll let you go ahead and do that.
And then, here, now, we want that, we have to bring it there, we want that, with us. Thinking that, but we don't want it to make it. If we hold down option, I think it's going back. Hold down shift and draw a straight line. There you go. You got it. Oh, we actually should have. Not. Should have. Probably do that and then option comes down there. And then you get that. Make sure you go down. And then again, option. Two. Another one. Pull down. And see how it changes that. Pull out. There, which is what you want. So now just have so really still down to the low. We know we don't totally get it. We're going, we're not going. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ideally you want few points as possible, but there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, but where's the word? Yeah. Oh, there's always like three different. But what we can do now. is we can- Um. No, you didn't put them dry. You just put- And. You can go back and this one kind of version, so you can go back and you can. And then, you know, weird. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't noticed, there are
alternate pen tool options in the pen tool palette. So there's a pen with a plus sign and there's a pen with a negative sign. So if I were to create in a shape, I'm just making something up here. Okay, if I were to create a shape like this, I could add points along the path with the pen plus. So I could add another point there, add another point. You have to precisely click on the path or it gives you an error. I can remove points with the pen minus. So I could take that point away. No, you gotta actually click on an anchor point. I could take that away, yeah, I'm missing the mark each time. So, you know, like as you're building your shapes, you might realize you want to have as few points as possible. So you might realize along the way that you have too many points. So it's handy to be able to go in and delete them. There are many other ways to smooth out a line and minimize points, which I will show you. But I just want you to get, you know, good at the pen tool right now, and then we'll go into shortcuts. if you are on the O of vector, you probably notice that it's actually two separate shapes, right? There's an outer oval and there's an inner oval. Okay. How do we deal with that? This comes into something that I didn't think I would go over in this class, but I probably should. There is such a thing as what's called a compound path. So an O is a circle with another circle cut out of the center. I mean, you could build an O by placing another oval or circle of the background color like on top of the larger oval. But that's not really the most efficient way to do this, because what if you had like your text on top of an image? You would want that image to show through the opening. And the same thing goes for the R. You know, the R has an interior like window going on. So this is called a compound path. And let me show you real quick how you would do that. So I'm going to just make a circle. And right now that circle covers, you can't see through it. It covers whatever it's on top of. If I make another circle, like starting in the center, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to make another circle. Okay, so I've made two circles here, one on top of the other. What I really want is to be able to see what's on the other side of the shape through that inner circle. And that's going to require us to create a compound path. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the outer circle. I'm going to click on the inner circle. And there's various ways to do this. There's a shortcut. There's a menu drop down. Easiest way might be to right click. You right click on both of them selected, hold down the shift to select two separate things at the same time. And there's an option here, make compound path. And now I have like this donut and I can see through the center of the circle. And that's how a lot of characters in text work, that they are compound paths. And then you can always release the compound path. I right clicked again, and then there's release compound path. So if I wanted to get rid of it, or I could use the the group selection tool, just click on one of them and delete it. Oh, I chose both, didn't it? Well, anyway, if you could, you can double click into these compound path objects and select just one path, and then you could delete it. And I mean, that would work the same as, breaking down the compound path. But that's how you would do the O and the R. What are we doing? Are you guys done? Did you complete it?
Oh. Okay. Alright.
Well, I mean, the pen tool was my goal for tonight. To get you practice with the pen tool. So you're not done yet. I have an assignment for you. Like I said on Tuesday, when I'm done with you, you are gonna be good at the pen tool. Because this next assignment, it's a doozy. Okay, it's gonna be real fun. Basically, your assignment is to take the masthead of the New York Times. Where is it? Right here. The New York Times, and recreate it in vector. Don't hate me now. You'll love me later when you're really good at the pen tool. I had to do this back when I was a student. Actually, this was a grad school assignment. No, it wasn't grad school, it was night school. I can't remember. But so, you know, I'm gonna be creating a shape here. Shape here. We'll get into, I haven't shown you how to weld shapes together yet. So it's perfectly all right if you need to create this like piecemeal, like this is a shape and this is a shape and this is a shape. I understand that, and that's fine. We will get into that next week, like welding shapes together. But this will be a really good experiment in remembering that the rule of 30%, using as few points as possible. So especially when you're doing like a really round curve like this, it's a very precise curve. It's gonna take some practice on, how many points are you gonna use? How long are your handles gonna be? What is necessary to get it done? So the file I'm giving you is an Illustrator file, and the image is locked down on a layer. It's locked down on a layer. We haven't gone into layers yet, but you can't click on the image and mess it up, so don't worry about that. Just use the pen tool to, like, to get started here on this top part here. I would say, I'm gonna, oh wait, I'm on the wrong layer. Hold on, window, layers. Okay. If it's not letting you edit, if you go to layers, window menu, layers, there's 2 layers. One of them is locked. Got a little lock icon. That's where the image is. Layer 2 is where you're going to be doing your work. So if it's not letting you edit, go to the layers panel and make sure you're on layer 2, and you'll be fine. So I would start here with a curve like that. And I would go, this is obviously going to have to break. So I'm gonna take this handle and pull it over here and then try to create a good curve right there. This is gonna take practice, people. This takes time. You know, I mean, I've done this a lot, and seriously, if I had to do this right now, I need to set aside a good hour, okay? You're gonna get good at this, okay? And this is a hard assignment, I understand. Do your best. And then you can brag to your future colleagues when you're in graphic design, and you could say, our teacher had us do the New York Times masthead. Yeah, with a pen tool. Dang. All right, you have bragging rights after, if you can accomplish this, you have total bragging rights. So there you go. So, you got the weekend, you got Monday's a holiday, don't have any classes, set aside some time. You know, and gonna get good at this. Any questions? Have I gone too fast? How is the speed of this class? It's okay? It's all right? Okay, good. I mean, it's been years since I've been in your seat. So I'm actually mostly self-taught. I mean, I did take one night school class in Illustrated, but mostly like just read a lot, like when I was learning this stuff, there was no internet, so I just like got graphic design magazines and got back issues and looked for tutorials and sat down with tutorials and, I try to teach myself as much as possible. And, just through practice. But you guys can always Google stuff and watch tutorials on YouTube, and you got it good. You got it good. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.